again, everybody. This is Kevin coming to you from Hideaway Homestead. Today we're going to be talking about cleaning up cast iron skillets and lids and that sort of thing that's got some surface rust on them and that sort of thing that needs to be taken off so they can be used again. I don't have any idea how old this thing is, but I'll show you what we're going to be working with and some of the tools we're going to be using here today. So this is what we've got. As you can see, the skillet is pretty rusty inside. It looks like it's just surface rust though. I don't think it's rusted through. This is the bottom of it. It's got a little bit of rust on it too. It needs to be cleaned up. Here's the lid to it. The inside of the lid. As you can see, it's got a lot of stuff on it that needs to be cleaned off of there. Okay, so some of the tools we're going to be using today is going to be this sander right here. Try to use that sander to get some of this rust out from inside the skillet here and off the bottom as well. I'm going to be using this wire brush right here also just to scrub away some of the rust on the outside edge of the sides right there. Don't think it'll fit on the inside because it's just not enough room in there. And I've used this little paint scraper thing right here to just scrape away some of the stuff that was inside the bottom of this thing. It had some kind of stuff. You can still see some of it right there, a little built up in there. I'm not sure what that is. Something that got spilled in there, I guess. Anyway, so I just use that to scrape all that off of there. And then we're going to be using the sander mostly to get the rust out of this. So we'll be talking about what we're doing as we go along. So let's get started. Okay, going to start out with this sander right here to get some of this rust out of the inside of the bottom of this thing, and hopefully this will be enough to take this out of here. Let's see what we can do with this. Makes a little bit of a mess, but as you can see, most of that came right off, and you can see the cast iron once again rather than all that rust. The sander doesn't fit down inside this thing as well as I wanted it to. It's a little bit too big for it to fit in there, but that's okay. We can still use that. And so what I'll probably do now is I'm probably going to turn this thing up on its side and see if I can't get some of this in here out as well. So let's continue on with this, and we'll be back in just a second and we'll see what we got. Okay, as you can see, this is a whole lot cleaner than it was to start with. Got a lot of that surface rust off of there. Cleaned it right up. It looks nice. And here's the lid. The lid cleaned up real good. The inside of the lid. Got it all sanded down. I took that wire brush and scraped a lot of the inside of that lid to get some of that rust out of there. Okay, so at this point what we're going to probably end up doing, or what we'll have to do, is re-season this thing so that it gets it back to where it should be for us to be able to use it. There's a whole bunch of different methods that people have used over the years to clean these things up, to re-season them. Some people, I know 100 years ago or somewhere around there when my parents and grandparents were around, they would take things like this and put them in a fire and burn off the outside, whatever was on them, if something got spilled on the outside type of thing. Well, now some people are saying that you shouldn't do that. What we usually do with ours, and we have several of these cast iron skillets and that we use here at the homestead, we take oil and rub it down with the oil, cooking oil usually, and then we'll put it into the oven and let it just heat up in there, and it gets the oil down into the pores of the cast iron and makes it a little bit more preserved. Whenever you wash these things, they say that you should not use soap and water on them. that you should just wipe them down with something, a cloth of some kind, paper towel. Some people say don't use paper towels because it gets fibers come loose and get in there, and then that gets stuck in there. So there's a whole bunch of different versions of what you should do out there and different ideas that people have. So what I would suggest is that you go online and look it up and see what's on there, see what people are saying about what they're using and how they're doing it, and whatever works for you, is great. That's what we've done, and we use these, like I said, we use these here on the homestead quite a bit, and we'll continue to use them. These things have been around for hundreds of years, I guess. I know I've got a skillet, an iron skillet that belonged to my parents, and it's from the 1800s. It belonged to, I think, my dad's parents before that, so it's been around for a long time. We're still using it here at the house, so it's something that's a good thing to use and will be around for a long time. If you take care of them, they will last you a lifetime, a couple lifetimes probably. Anyway, so if you have any questions about this or any ideas or anything that you might want to pass along to us, please send us comments and ask us questions. If there's something you want to know, send us a question and we'll see if we can answer it. If we don't know the answer, we'll find out what the answer is and maybe get back to you with that.
So, a step that we didn't show yet that I saw online, when you've gone through the skillet or the whatever piece of cast iron with a sander to get the rust off, the sander doesn't get all the edges. Along the edge here, that flat surface can't really get it out. So what was suggested was to take a potato, cut it up, and use this as sort of your scrubber along with some regular table salt, and it really works pretty well to get into this area along here to get the last of that rust out. So I'll go around and around, especially on the edges where Kevin wasn't able to get the sandpaper to get that last little bit of rust off, and already this has just about made it smooth. Heavier rust, of course, will take more scrubbing and a little bit longer time. Probably going to go up along the side a little bit on this one also, just to make sure that all the surfaces are as clean and smooth from rust, and that there's no old buildup on it that we're going to be going over with our layers of oil. So this works, and just one more step, especially if you already had to do the step with the sandpaper with a power sander, electric sander, then this is going to get those last little edges clean for you. On to the next step. I'll take a paper towel, some kind of a clean cloth, wipe out the salt, and probably even rinse it to get this surface all cleaned off before we start putting the oil on to season it officially. This really did a great job in very little time.
Hi, this is Kevin. Welcome back. This is the next segment on what we were talking about earlier on re-seasoning the cast iron skillets. What we're going to be doing in this step is we're going to be coating the skillet with olive oil, and then we'll put it into the oven and let it bake for a while. It re-seasons the iron, the cast iron, and gets it back to where you can use it again without all that rust and stuff. As you saw earlier, we had cleaned the rust off of this. It still has a little bit around the edge, but it's not real bad now. We got most of all of it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to coat this with the olive oil, like I just mentioned, and we're going to put a light coat on it. You don't want to put it on too thick. You just want enough on there that it's going to season the cast iron again. We're going to do the lid also. This is the lid. This is the inside of it, and here's the outside. So we're going to coat this whole thing, the inside and the outside of it. The instructions that we're going by is that you set the oven to 375 and then put it in the oven to leave it in there for a while. I think it's an hour or something like that, and let it sit in there and cook, and then you take it out or turn the oven off and let it sit in there and cool down for a little while, and then you go through that process again. So we're going to start this and see what happens. Okay, getting ready to put the olive oil on this and wipe it down, season it a little bit, and so we're going to see what happens with this. They suggest that you use some kind of a rag or something that doesn't have a lot of lint on it, because sometimes the lint will stick to the cast iron and get stuck on there, and so then you've got some more stuff coating your skillet, and that's what you're trying to do, is get the stuff off, so you don't want to put it back on there. So I've got a little bit of olive oil on this rag, and we're going to see what happens with this. We're just going to rub this down inside real good. Try to make sure you got the whole thing coated. The outside edge as well. And as you can see, it's still pulling some of the rust off of there, and that's okay. That's what you want. You want to get all that off of there. Okay, so then you can do the outside as well. If you have to have more oil, then you go ahead and put some more on there. You don't have to use olive oil. It's just that it was suggested that you do because it seems to work a little better, I guess. I'm not real sure why. But you can use any kind of oil. If you don't have olive oil, just regular cooking oil will work too. All you're trying to do is get some of this oil into the pores of the cast iron so that it'll soak in. And then when you bake it, it cooks it into the cast iron and preserves it. Okay, so this is pretty much done. And so let's get this into the oven and see what happens. This is the finished product we have here on this iron skillet that we were treating to try to get the pan re-seasoned. So this is what it finally ended up looking like once we got finished with it. What we did is we treated it several times with olive oil and then put it in an oven. I think we heated the thing to about 350, 375, somewhere around there. And we usually leave it in there for about an hour, and then we turn the oven off and just leave the pan in the oven and let it cool on its own. And then once you take it out, then you should have a pretty nice looking pan. Actually, this thing turned out really nice. And so anyway, so hopefully if you're trying to re-season cast iron and you're wanting to learn how to do it, this is going to be a good thing. And hopefully you learn something from it. Okay, this is a good close-up of the pan. As you can see, it's pretty shiny. This is the lid. Inside of the lid. And the inside of the pan as well. Still got some oil in it. I think my wife tried it out once we got it treated to see how well it worked, and apparently it worked pretty good. The idea behind treating these pans like this is to try to get a coating on them so that they won't stick. Anything that you cook in there should not stick when you cook it if it's treated properly. So there you go. Now you know how to treat a cast iron skillet when it needs to be retreated, re-seasoned. Try it out for yourself, see how it works, and let us know. Leave us some comments in the comments section. Give us a thumbs up. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please hit the subscribe button down there in the lower your right hand corner. Until next time, thanks for joining us here on Hideaway Homestead.